Trading is one of the best ways to build a championship fantasy football team. So let's talk about some wide receivers you should go trade for right now. Welcome back, Endgame community. It's Chris, and I'm going to give you some of my favorite buy low wide receivers heading into week 7. Let's talk about Mike Evans, a guy I'm still really high on rest of the season, but his value has taken a huge hit over the last couple of weeks. Hasn't been great from fantasy. And then what happened in week 6 in an absolute smash spot against pretty much an entire backup secondary for the Steelers. Not only did Evans do nothing, but Tom Brady looked terrible. But somehow Evans in this game, only 4 targets. Everything the Bucs did in this game was just short, quick passes. They weren't throwing it downfield, which made no sense because the Steelers had no secondary. Like, take some shots. I don't know what's going on with this Buccaneers offense right now, but I gotta think things will change. We know who Evans is as a player. He's one of those guys. He's pretty boom busty, right? He has weeks like this where he only gets you, a few catches, 8 points, but then he goes off the next week and scores 2 touchdowns and wins you your week. And right now, people are very nervous. They're nervous about the offense. They're nervous about Tom Brady, and they're nervous about Mike Evans. So this is the time to strike. Go get Mike Evans for what should be way lower than his actual value should be, and have an every week high upside wide receiver one who can help you win a fantasy championship. Another high-end wide receiver who's struggled the last couple weeks is CeeDee Lamb. Now, he hasn't been terrible, but he hasn't been great, getting you just about 10 PPR points each week, and that's really because he's stuck with Cooper Rush right now, and the Cowboys just try to win by hiding Cooper Rush as much as they can and relying on that defense. And look, that worked for 4 weeks, and then they played the Eagles, and it didn't work because the Eagles can put points on the board, and the Eagles have an elite defense. But this is the time to go get CeeDee Lamb if you can. This is still an elite wide receiver, not just in real life, but in fantasy. But best news of all is it looks like Dak Prescott will be starting this week, and it's the Lions. You can't ask for a better spot for Dak Prescott to come back in versus this Lions defense. CeeDee Lamb is going to be an elite wide receiver one, must-start wide receiver every week from now until the end of the season, but people don't value him that way. People were, even during draft season, people were a little skeptical. Dak didn't look good in that first game before he got hurt. People aren't sold that CeeDee Lamb could be a top 5 every week wide receiver, but he can, especially with Dak Prescott back. Now they will throw more. Now this offense will actually be able to do some things. And another nice thing for CeeDee Lamb that I really like this year is with Michael Gallup back, he is playing a ton out of the slot. He is getting those mismatches against slot corners that he can absolutely dominate, like we saw as a rookie when he was great. So go out, trade for CeeDee Lamb right now before he explodes against the Lions and you can't get him. All right, I got one more big name wide receiver, and that is T. Higgins. Obviously, week 5, people got burned, myself included, by T. Higgins. Put him in their lineup. He barely played, got you to 0. Then what did we see in week 6? It was Jamar Chase week. T. Higgins, he got you like 10 points, nothing special. People are starting to get nervous about T. Higgins, but you shouldn't. You should be encouraged from what you saw in week 6 because T. Higgins played over 80% of the snaps, didn't leave the game, didn't re-aggravate that ankle. He's only going to get healthier. And what did we see in the first 4 weeks? T. Higgins is an absolute stud. But now is the time to go get him because 2 bad games in a row. Jamar Chase just went off. People are like, oh yeah, Jamar Chase is the wide receiver 1 here. T. Higgins is just the wide receiver 2. This is going to correct itself, and now it's going to be Jamar Chase show again. I don't think so, because if you go back even to last year, when these 2 guys have played together, T. Higgins has out-targeted Jamar Chase, has more yards than Jamar Chase, and has just as many touchdowns as Jamar Chase. So I don't think it's going to be the Jamar Chase show. There's going to be Jamar Chase weeks, and there's going to be T. Higgins weeks, and there's going to be both these guys weeks. That's how it's going to go in this offense. And this is another offense that has kind of struggled, but it looks like it's getting better. Looks like it's finding its groove, and I think it'll be better in the second half. So go get T. Higgins now before he has a boom week in week 7, and reminds everybody that he's a guy you have to have in your lineup every single week. All right, let's go a little deeper now. Let's go with Rashad Bateman. Remember him? Yeah, we haven't seen him in a couple of weeks because he's dealing with this midfoot injury, which we really don't have any specifics on, and we really don't know when he'll be back. But look at this Ravens offense the last 2 weeks. It has been terrible. Lamar Jackson has crashed kind of back down to earth. They don't have any weapons outside of Mark Andrews. They don't have a wide receiver. Devin Duvernay isn't it. They need Rashad Bateman. This offense needs Rashad Bateman. And no, Rashad Bateman is not going to be, a target monster, a volume monster in this offense, because that's just not how this offense rolls. But when he comes back, he's the clear best option apart from Mark Andrews in this offense. We know he has huge, big playability, huge upside, and right now, his value is pretty much gone because he's just sitting on somebody's bench or sitting in somebody's IR spot, and it wasn't like he was tearing it up to begin with. So if you don't need Rashad Bateman in the short term, he's a great guy to go out, trade for right now. Once he gets back, once he gets healthy, that he's going to have a role. He's got tremendous weekly upside. Go get Rashad Bateman. All right, now I want to talk about a guy who you might not even have to trade for. He might be free in your league, but if he's still on somebody's roster, go try to get Curtis Samuel. He's been dropped in a ton of leagues, so if somehow he is on the waiver wire in your league, just add him, put him on the end of your bench. He's worth it. But if he's on somebody's roster, go trade for Curtis Samuel because you don't need to give up much, if at all, for this guy right now. 2 disappointing games in a row. Now Carson Wentz is hurt. There's a lot of uncertainty with this offense, with this team. But look, Curtis Samuel once again led the team in targets. Granted, it was only 5, but he's leading the team in targets. He had that bad drop that would have been a touchdown. He's still involved. He's still getting high value opportunities. No, he's not going to have huge weekly upside, but he's a great guy to have, especially right now for bye weeks. You need to plug him in either as a flex or as like a wide receiver 3. If you're desperate, he can get it done. He won't kill you most weeks, and he's going to take almost nothing to get right now. So go out, trade Curtis Samuel for somebody just sitting on your bench that you will never start. You won't be disappointed. All right, now that you know some of my buy low wide receivers, you need to know some of my buy low running backs, waiver wire pickups, who to start, who to sit. We've got you covered with everything you need to win your Week 7 matchup. Check out our Week 7 playlist right here with all the videos you need to help you win.